Good morning. It is Tuesday, January 19th, 2021, and welcome to episode 2 of Dugout Talk. I'm Stephen Gossman,
Cameron Lingle.
and we've got a lot to cover today, so let's just jump right
hmm
into it. But first of all, we're going to do some little day in history things every day just to kind of bring some nostalgia back to our listeners, to our subscribers. I think it's always cool to kind of look back because baseball is such a historic, there's so much history behind the game.
hmm
It's really cool just to kind of look back and see, oh, what happened on this day years ago. So I'll go ahead and start off
Go
in
for it.
1977. So 44 years ago today, Mr. Cub Ernie Banks, in his first appearance on the Hall of Fame ballot, was elected to the Hall of Fame. Ernie Banks spent 19 years all with the Cubs, hit 512 homers, and made 11 All-Star games, and also won 2 NL MVP awards.
Crazy. Well, today in 1972, so just what 5 years before Ernie Banks got inducted, um, we had a star-studded Hall of Fame ballot. We had Sandy Koufax, who at age 36 was the youngest player ever inducted into the Hall of Fame. We've got the great Yankee, the great manager Yogi Berra. He was inducted, and we also have Early Wynn. He was also an inductee that season.
It is a very star-studded group right there.
hmm
Sandy Koufax retired at like 30, didn't he?
Yeah, it was. He was. I forget what he. I forget what he had.
Yeah. Well, I actually have a cool story about Koufax, but
Okay.
my grandpa was actually at his perfect game
Hmm.
in 1965. So that's a little cool history tidbit right there.
I
That's
couldn't imagine.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine there either. It was Koufax's perfect game was actually the Dodgers only recorded one hit in that game and got a
Jeez.
run. So
If you
that's
like
about
pitching,
if you like pitching, that was the game to be at.
my goodness.
Uh, so last night, some big news broke coming out of the New
Yeah.
York Mets. General Manager Jared Porter, who they just hired on December 13th, some news came out about how when he was with the Chicago Cubs in 2016, he was sending some text messages to a foreign MLB
hmm
reporter. They had met, I guess, in an elevator at Yankee Stadium in 2016, and they had exchanged text messages here and there. And some of those messages were very explicit.
Yep.
I'm not going to go into detail about what was sent exactly, but bottom line is Jared Porter made some big mistakes. And less than 12 hours after the news broke, and this was first thing this morning, the Mets
hmm
dismissed Jared Porter with a little less than 4 years to go on his contract.
Yeah. And it was the right thing to do, regardless of business decisions that were just made, regardless of how bright of a future he may have had as the Mets general manager, and regardless of the moves he's already made. It's just you have to do it. You have to.
Especially with today where things are
hmm
on a cultural
Exactly.
standpoint today. That's just not is not tolerable. It never is tolerable, but
No.
especially now. um yeah, it is really unfortunate. Porter had been rumored for the last few years of being a candidate to take over general manager
hmm
jobs. He was with the Boston Red Sox for 12 years. That was where he got his start, and then he followed Theo Epstein to Chicago with the Cubs, helped them build a World Series champion. And then in 2017, he went with Mike Hazen, who he also worked with in Boston, to the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they built a pretty good contending team there. And
hmm
now he got the job with the Mets last December, and just like that, he made one crucial mistake, and he's
He
gone.
made 62 crucial mistakes.
62 crucial mistakes.
Yeah.
I think we were kind of talking about it before we got on, but it's hard to believe that the Mets knew this was happening.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't I think it would be crazy to assume that the Mets had even the slightest idea that this was going on.
right. And I'm not sure what the hiring process looks like in
hmm
situations like this. I don't know if teams look at social media history on stuff like that. I mean, maybe to some degree they might look at it loosely.
Sure.
Um, but I think the thing that sticks out with me is in Jared Porter's introductory conference, he mentioned how there's a cultural shift going on
Mm-hmm.
within the Mets. You know, they got a new owner in Steve Cohen, and they're trying to bring in good people to do the job right. And to have this news come out that Porter was doing these things is in a lot of ways hypocritical of what he
Yeah.
said
Yep.
in his press conference.
Absolutely.
And it just goes to show you don't really know people. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know what's going on with them. And it is a shame. It is a shame that this went down, that this took place. But at the end, the Mets absolutely did the right thing. And I think this is a huge statement from Steve Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, he's a new owner and he's making the Mets look like a team to root for.
Yes.
I know under the Wilpon family, they were
Yeah.
they were they were easy to laugh at. They
Easy
were
to laugh at.
it felt like, I mean, with our colleagues, we all, at least every week we'd find a way to say LOL Mets, like they
Yep.
did it again, they screwed up somehow. I don't think in this case this is so much an LOL moment because they
No.
took care of business as soon as it came out.
Yep.
Um, I think the thing I'm surprised most by is they didn't wait for an investigation to take place.
Mm-hmm.
They just axed him right there.
Yep. Which is a positive. That's not to be like, wow, I can't believe they would fire him without
Oh,
learning
absolutely.
all the facts. No, you got to do it. You're just like with Beltron last year. Like there were the speculation that he was involved in the cheating in 2017 in Houston. They didn't wait for
Right.
any they didn't wait for any suspensions to get levied. They got rid of him then and there, regardless of how shiny that new toy is. If it's corrupt and crooked, you got to get rid of it.
Yeah, so this is the second time in less than a year that this has happened to the Mets.
Hmm.
Um, Now in Beltron, note with Beltron though is it took AJ Hinch and Alex Cora getting
Yes.
fired
Yes.
before the Mets did anything. But even then, Beltron, um, I'm pretty sure it was his decision to leave. It was more it
Okay.
was more on him. I don't think the Mets actually dismissed him, if I remember right. I think it was he decided that, and the team decided in best interest, they mutually just parted ways so that
Yeah. It
there
feels
wouldn't
like it
be.
was 15 years ago with everything that's gone down
Yeah,
recently.
yeah, it feels so long ago that this happened. Um, but I'm sure more news is going to come out about this later with Porter. But again,
Hmm.
the Mets did the right thing. They
Absolutely.
took care of business. They made sure we're not putting up with this. Like, even if maybe it comes out later that it wasn't as serious, although I doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, the Mets made a statement. They said, we're not doing this. You're out. We don't care how many years you signed with this. Like, this is completely intolerable.
Absolutely.
So, and this has been breaking on major news sites. So we'll post links on our
Yep.
Twitter and Facebook pages if you want to read more on the story. Um, but we're not going to get too much into detail because it's still really fresh and
Yep.
we don't want to misinform anybody.
Absolutely.
Uh, so moving on, speaking of the Mets,
Hmm.
last night a three-team trade went down involving the San Diego Padres, the Mets, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Padres sent or I'm sorry, the Pirates sent starting pitcher Joe Musgrove to the Padres. San Diego sent their starting pitcher Joey Lucchesi to the Mets,
Yep.
and then in for Pittsburgh, they got four
Pittsburgh, yeah,
prospects from.
Pittsburgh got um the number 7 prospect from the Padres, Hudson Head. They got the number 17 prospect, which would be Omar Cruz. They got the number 20 prospect, David Bednar, and they got Drake Fellows, who the Padres just drafted in 2019 in the 6th round.
And then the
And
Mets, from the Mets, the Pirates got
yes, Andy Rodriguez.
number 14 prospect, Andy Rodriguez. Rodriguez is a switch hitting catcher outfielder. So he's
Yep.
kind of like Wilson. He's kind of like Wilson Contreras a little bit there. The prospects that Pittsburgh got, the only one who really has major league experience is David Bednar.
Yes.
Bednar has a small sample size of games from the last
Hmm.
two seasons He has a 6.75 ERA across 17 games. Um, but there is a lot of promise here.
Absolutely.
Hudson Head is a very highly coveted prospect, number
Hmm.
7 for San Diego. There's a lot of upside to him. People think that he's going to be a real game changer. So that was a good deal for Pittsburgh, even though he's in rookie ball right now.
Yeah.
Um, and Omar Cruz, he's in high A ball, or he's in full
Hi.
season single A ball, yeah.
Yep.
And so
There's
they're
there's
both.
oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I was just gonna
There
say both guys aren't
we're
both
good.
guys aren't expected to they're not expected to make it to the show for another couple of
No.
years. So
Yeah.
there's plenty of time. This doesn't make Pittsburgh any better. It's just more they're trying to get ready for the future,
Yeah.
realizing they don't have a chance this year.
Yeah, from what I was able to read up about on Head, he's number 7 prospect for the Padres in what is usually considered one of the 2 or 3 best prospect systems in baseball. So for a guy to be ranked that high in such a overall great farm system like that he could very well become the Mets, top 5 prospect. He's only 19. He's a lefty. I've seen that if he can cut down on the movement in his swing, that he could really transform into a high offensive player. He's got speed. He's got raw power. He's got, like I said, super high potential, but he really hasn't faced any real competition in professional ball. He just made his professional debut in 2019, and with the 2020 minor league season essentially being axed, he really didn't get a whole lot in, but he did play a little bit in rookie ball. 32 games, hit about 283 with a home run, 12 RBIs. So definitely someone to keep an eye out for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think the Pirates have a lot to look forward to in this, and
Oh yeah.
it's nice because even with David Bednar, even though the Padres have had him up in and out of their
Hmm.
system, he still has a lot of room for improvement as well. And Pittsburgh can use that chance to maybe get him a full minor league season,
Hmm.
let him get his kinks worked out, get to make those adjustments that he needs to make. I think too, maybe with him going out to the East Coast instead of being on the West Coast, because the West Coast can tend to play a little more friendlier to hitters than it does
Yes.
pitchers. And don't get me wrong, I think of all the West Coast ballparks, San Diego is one that favors pitchers more, but it's just because the ballpark is so massive out there.
Hmm.
It's one of the biggest ballparks in the league. But on the East Coast, I think going to Pittsburgh and pitching in more of an environment where that plays a little more friendly to pitchers, even in the minor league system, I think it will benefit him a little more. Uh,
And not only that, but he is a Pittsburgh native.
that's right, he is.
Yep, Pittsburgh native. He went to college, Lafayette College, I believe, which isn't too incredibly far. He's had, from what I was reading up on him, he's had 4 minor league seasons, all of which in the bullpen, and he's had an ERA under 3 each of those years. Now, granted, he still hasn't played in AAA. The highest he ever reached was AA, where he posted a 2.95 ERA in about 40 appearances. I think he can, if he can get about half a season in AAA, just to make sure that like he's well seasoned. Um, I think he could be a great, middle of the bullpen guy for Pittsburgh. I think he even had some saves in his time in Double A and Single A, so he could even be someone who down the line picks up a closing job somewhere.
It's true. And I'm not sure what Pittsburgh's closing situation looks like. I know
Yeah.
they're in rebuild mode, so it's kind of hard to tell what
Hmm.
they're actually doing at this point. Again, though, this looks good for the Pirates side, especially. I
Absolutely.
think this is one of those moves where they know deep down they're not going to be in the race for the Central unless if
Hmm.
something goes absolutely right for them this year. So they're really focused on the future, trying to make sure that they're building up to put a team back on the field like they had from 2013 to 2015, when they had like Andrew McCutchen, Garrett
Hmm.
Cole,
Yep.
Starling
Russell
Marte,
Martin.
Russell Martin, guys like that in their starting lineup. So yeah, I think this, and also a note on Joe Musgrove. He's from the San Diego area,
Mm-hmm.
so this is kind of a homecoming for him. And and you gotta look at the Padres now. And I know
Yeah,
we talked about how the offseason has been really slow, but it's been
it's
more slow
been
on the free agent side of things.
hot. It's been hot in San Diego.
It
You look at
has.
you look at their potential rotation. You've got, I mean, and this is in any order you choose. You've got Yu Darvish, you've got Blake Snell, you have Donaldson Lamet, you have Paddock, you got Joe Musgrove. You can add to that now, and don't forget that you're expecting to see Gore and Clevenger at some point this season as well. That's seven guys for a 5-man rotation. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Well, I think Clevenger's out for the year
Oh,
because
is he?
he had
Okay,
Tommy John, so
I didn't know
Clevenger's
if he
out.
was. I didn't know if he was expected to make like a late season appearance. I thought they would maybe get him back at some point in time.
Yeah, I don't think they're expecting that from him
Okay.
at all. Maybe September at the absolute earliest, but I don't think they're banking on him coming back.
Well, then you go from seven great guys to six.
Yeah, and Mackenzie Gore, easily Gore is probably going to start the year in AAA, I would
Yes.
imagine, because he definitely needs to get
Oh
some
yeah.
of that minor league work in. But they have a bright future there,
Hmm.
especially with that. San Diego actually, and I think it helps the Padres because they actually made the playoffs last year, and
Yep.
they probably would have made it even in a full 162 game season. They probably would have made it.
Yes.
So this isn't like, and I kind of looking at what the Padres have been doing this offseason, it does scare me when teams start going all in like this.
Yeah.
And even with in the Mets case, it's kind of it always puts me on edge because when teams try to make a statement of we're going to win right now,
Yep.
more times than not it doesn't work.
Even just looking back
And
to San Diego in 2015 when they went and got the Upton brothers and they got Craig Kimbrell, everyone thought, okay, here we go. San Diego's going to be something. I think they even got Matt Kemp that season too, but that
they got
ended up
Matt
falling
Kemp, they
apart.
got James Shields
Yes,
when Shields was because Shields had
big
just come
game
off
Shields.
of yeah, that he had just come off the 2014 campaign where the
Mm-hmm.
Royals made the World
With the
Series.
Royals. Yep.
Um, yeah, I mean, even looking at that 2015 team, and I remember telling people, look, that just because they're good on paper doesn't mean it's going to
Yep.
translate. And people were looking at me like, no, you're dumb. And what happened? They got fourth place in the
Yeah.
West that year, missed the playoffs, and had to completely tear down and start over.
And I
Will
think
Myers
oh, go ahead.
Will Myers is the only guy they have left
Yeah.
from that haul.
And I feel like this Padres team is a lot different than that one because they've got those pieces. They already went to the postseason. Now they're just adding on to it. It's not like what the Padres did in 2015, where they just got a whole bunch of guys and said, "Here, let's see if we can do it." They've already proven they can do it. They're just now adding some really really nice complementary pieces to it.
Exactly. The difference is the guys who are in San Diego now, the core at least, played together throughout the minors.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, they're adding pieces as they go along. You know, they added Machado 2 years ago. They added Hosmer 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who else did they add? And now they're adding the starting pitching with Snell
Yep.
and Darvish and Musgrove. So this is definitely a different look ball club. And I don't know. I'm excited to see what they do. I think they have the best chance of anyone in that division to win it, to win the
Yes.
division anyways.
And
So
speaking so and the Mets got Joey Lucchesi, which could end up being a sneaky good acquisition for them. Lucchesi, he had I won't say great seasons, but he had good seasons in 2018 and 19. ERA right around 4.1, 4.2. Um, he I mean you can pretty much throw away 2020. He had a bad year, but a lot of guys had a bad year. A lot of guys had injuries. It was a crazy year. But from what I've seen, The Mets plan to use Lucchesi as just some starting pitching depth. They want to work him back up to that. They'd also like to use him as a swingman out of the bullpen. And I think that, anyone goes down in that Mets rotation, I think he can just step right in. And he's 6'5", he's a lefty. I think he could step right in and pick up where he left off in 2019 from San Diego.
And the thing is, too, is the Mets aren't going to have Syndergaard to start the year.
Mm-hmm.
So Lucchesi, I read a tweet today that said that he's probably going to be the fifth man in the
Yep.
rotation going into opening day, or at least that's what they envision him right now.
Yes.
And even then, if he doesn't get a starting role, he can easily just move to the bullpen and
Exactly.
be
Nice
like
long
that
relief. Yep.
the long relief guy, the guy who can make a start here and there for them. Overall, I think it's a good low grade trade. I don't think
Yes.
either team is really hurt by it.
No.
Everyone kind of improves to in some area.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh's got a bright future ahead of them over the next couple of years. The Padres are they just keep adding pitching depth, and the Mets are just trying to be, they're trying to get credibility back,
Yes.
essentially. Um, so yeah, this is overall a pretty good trade, I
I
think,
would
and I
say
have a
win-win.
yeah, and I have a feeling this probably won't be the last we see, at least
No.
on Pittsburgh's end. I have a feeling the Pirates aren't done just yet.
Yeah. Gotta purge all of the pitching. Jameson
Yeah,
Tyon's probably next.
yeah, yeah, that's probably true. So going into some free agent news, the
Mm-hmm.
Toronto Blue Jays are making some noise. We talked about on the show yesterday how uh, players were asking Charlie Montoyo and the front office if are we actually going to play in Toronto this year, and there was some kind of shakiness there. People weren't really sure. It doesn't seem like there's still a clear decision, but I think hearing the news about Tyler Chatwood signing a
Mm-hmm.
one-year deal with the club yesterday, and now Kirby Yates is actually in the team's AAA site in Dunedin, or no, Double A. It's Double A site
Oh, okay.
in Dunedin, and it sounds like the Blue Jays have a deal brewing for Kirby Yates. There's nothing official yet. It sounds like he's going to throw for the team today, get his physical. So we're assuming that pending a physical, they've got something in place.
Yep.
Uh, which is exciting. The Blue Jays made the playoffs last year. They've got that young talent with Kevin Biggio, Vlad
Mm-hmm.
Guerrero Jr.
Yep.
They look good, and with the two moves they made, it makes me wonder if at some point, maybe not right out of the gate, but if at some point the Blue Jays might be playing in Toronto.
Yeah. Yeah, and don't forget that I don't know if anyone has seen Vlad Guerrero Jr., but the man looks totally different now. He's lost some of that weight. He's put on some muscle. He looks lean. He looks angry.
Yeah, there was a video that just came out yesterday, right?
Mm,
Like it was showing him doing workouts or something like that, I think. But yeah, he does. He looks really good.
yep, he
I
is
know
in shape.
it was kind of surprising because they moved him to first base last year,
Yeah.
after just 1 year at third. And I know we were kind of concerned about, oh, is he really not that mobile? Like, is
Hmm.
he actually, does he not capable of manning third? But maybe
Yeah.
now that he looks a little leaner,
Yep.
maybe he is going to go back to third, because I'm pretty sure they still have Travis Shaw. And Shaw, I would
I
assume
think so.
he can play third and first.
Hmm.
So I guess it doesn't really matter there, but I've always felt like Vlad Jr. is the third baseman.
Yeah.
He's not. No, he was never seen as the first baseman. He's
Yep.
their third base guy. So, um, but yeah, the Blue Jays, they're also making some
They're
noise.
heating up. Yep.
They're trying to be competitive. Um, that AL East could be fun between them, the
Oh yeah.
Rays, and the Yankees. That could be really exciting to watch. I will say, I like this Blue Jays squad a lot better than the 2015 squad.
Yes.
And I think it's just because a part of me feels like the Blue Jays were trying to do the same thing. If they were trying to build a winner immediately
Yeah.
out of the gate. Sure, you could argue they grew Jose Bautista and Edwin Encarnacion, even though they weren't drafted
Originally,
or
yeah.
signed. They weren't originally signed by the Blue Jays. But it still just felt like they were going on the market and trying to build a winner immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And in the rare case, it actually worked for them
Yeah.
because they made the league championship series 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
But as quickly as it worked for them, it quickly fell apart too.
Yep.
So I think what they've done now in actually signing guys and drafting players and bringing them all up at once to bring in a winner, I think it's working a lot better for them. And Charlie Montoya has done a great job with that team.
Of course, yeah, he really has.
I think he's really flown under the radar as someone that he's just doing the job. He was kind of a surprising hire when they hired him. I didn't think he was going to get the job.
Yeah.
I don't think he was a top candidate necessarily. I don't think people really saw him as the guy that was going to get the job, but he got it, and
And that says
he
something about his character, and it says something about how they think he's going to be able to continue running that team.
and it sounds like he does really well with the young guys.
Yes.
It sounds like he really connects with those guys well and is able to kind of keep them level-headed for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
They go through slumps. He doesn't freak out too much. He's was he on Joe Madden's coaching staff at
Oh,
one time?
he might have been. I'm
Well,
not
I
sure.
know he was at the Rays during Kevin Cash's day, so he's at
Okay.
least a Kevin Cash guy. Um, but yeah, the Blue Jays, you got to look out for them. And
Absolutely.
speaking of, with George Springer rumors, the Blue Jays are in the mix on that too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know how far the Blue Jays and the Mets are willing to go to compete with each other. I know those are probably the two biggest landing spots for Springer, as it has appeared to be all winter. I think I think it's going to come down to just whichever team probably offers the extra year. I don't think money is going to be the big thing that Springer's worried about. I know he typically ends a season with, a couple stints on the IL. So I think he's going to look for longevity more than he will look for that immediate dollar amount.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think Toronto might be more willing to give that extra
Mm-hmm.
year to Springer than they were LeMahieu, because LeMahieu wasn't a huge need for
Yes.
Toronto, but Springer would be a major upgrade in
Yep.
center field, and he'd be immediate help to kind of get them to that place they want to be at, and that is the postseason.
Mm.
Plus, Springer has experience with being on the winning side of things in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's it's very clear. I don't think Springer was really all that involved in what happened in Houston.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's
but
whatever as far as that.
it's hard to say what actually
Yeah.
happened out there, who was involved, and how involved
Yeah.
guys were. But Springer was pretty vocal about he didn't want to return to Houston this offseason. He was pretty vocal about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think Toronto is probably the more likely destination for him. But you never know; another team could jump in there and blow him away and rob him essentially.
Mm-hmm.
We actually put a poll on Twitter about where he might land. By the way, John Paul Morosi was the one who's been coming out this week and saying that Springer is close, or he could be nearing a decision soon. So go to our Twitter handle and look for that poll. You choose your options. If you think he's a random team that he's going to go to, comment below who you think he's going to, because we've been surprised before. We've seen teams just blow
Out of the
guys
blue.
away. Yep, out of the
Yep.
blue. Remember the Zach Greinke sweepstakes
Oh my
back in
God, yeah.
2016 when the Diamondbacks just jumped in and was like, "Hey,
Yep.
we'll give you this." Even as a Diamondback fan, I was like, "What? They got him?"
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It was crazy.
One last piece of news on the free agent market, though. John Lester
Mm-hmm.
is a Washington National now. He signed a 1-year deal yesterday. There was a report that there was an option in there, but it's just a straight 1-year deal now.
I did see that. I think there's $3 million that's being deferred to 2023. So the Nats are trying to save and scrape any penny that they can. But I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you think that if, because, Theo Epstein, a big players guy, do you think he would have let John Lester go? John Lester's made it clear that he wanted to stay a Cub. He wanted to retire a Cub. Do you think Lester would have let him go?
It's hard to say. Because you look at where the Cubs are right now, and it's pretty clear at some point they're going to be selling some of their guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's Chris Bryant's probably not going to be a Cub at the end of the year. He
Yeah.
may not even be a Cub when the season starts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wilson Contreras is probably going to be on the move at some point. Anthony Rizzo, he probably will be on the move at some point. Um, I'm really not sure. I think I'm I think Epstein would have tried to keep Lester around if he could have,
Mm-hmm.
but you've got to look at the situation too, just with where the Cubs are and
Yes.
how the future isn't really all that certain at the moment. It's
Mm-hmm.
not clear how things are going to go in 2021. Um, I think I probably would say Lester wouldn't be a Cub.
Okay.
Um,
I see. That's like I know that Theo Epstein, like I said, a big players guy. Players love him. Players love to play for him. I didn't know if it was something that maybe the Cubs kind of gypped him on this, having really not put up much of a fight and letting Lester go sign with not a division rival, but still a team that is a perennial postseason contender now. But that deal's only worth $5 million. You have to think the Cubs could have at least matched that, even if they would have added the $3 extra million that the Nationals have deferred. I understand that he has shown his age in the last 2 seasons. He's gone a total of 16-13 with a 4.64 ERA. So he's been less than stellar, less than his first 4 years in Chicago. But I mean, he's third among active pitchers. He's third in wins with 193. He's eighth in strikeouts with 23.97, and he's third in playoff wins among active pitchers with 9. I just kind of figured the Met or the Cubs would just show a bit of love for a guy who helped them win their first ring in over 100 years. But I guess when you have to make those business decisions, loyalties really don't play that much of a part in it.
and Epstein isn't with the Cubs anymore,
Yes.
too, and
Yes.
it's yeah, I don't know. I think politics just kind of plays a part sometimes in these decisions, and the business side of baseball can be ruthless.
Yes.
Um, but I just look at where the Cubs are and seeing that, especially after trading Yu Darvish, it makes me think that they're trying to do a rebuild without rebuilding, but they're
Mm-hmm.
letting some guys walk, and Lester was one of those guys. I think they're just trying to make the rotation younger. Um, and and part of it could have been too, maybe the deal was they wouldn't be able to guarantee Lester wouldn't get traded at some point.
Yeah. That always could be.
That is a possibility too. We don't know exactly what went down with that. Um, but let me ask you this:
Mm.
does this signing make the Nationals better? Because you did mention that Lester's been showing his age. Does it make them a better team than what they were last year?
I want to say I think I'm going to say yes here, mainly because he's not going to be relied upon nearly as much as he was in his last couple years in Chicago, where they still kind of needed him because you Darvish didn't really blossom until what midway through 2019 with the
Right,
Cubs,
right.
and so Lester was really relied upon, especially like I said post Jake Arrieta. He was really relied upon to still be that workhorse. And I think it's going to take some time for him to reinvent himself if he does want to pitch maybe a couple more years, kind of like a CC Sabathia,
Mhm.
or maybe he wants to reinvent himself, pitch in a different kind of pitch to a different pitch to a different way. But I think that he's going to slot in probably number 4, maybe number 5 in the Nationals rotation. And I think just being able to sit back and just go out and do your thing every fifth day, I think it's going to be really good for him.
Yeah, I think in a way this does make Washington better than last year now.
Hmm.
Obviously, with the COVID shortened season, 2020, I think it's easy to just put that year behind and say it doesn't really matter what
Yeah.
happened because it wasn't a full season. Things could have gone differently. Um, and I mean, Washington's already got a pretty strong pitching staff to begin
Oh
with. They
yeah.
got Scherzer, Corbin, Strasburg, Tyson or not Tyson Ross, Joe Ross,
Yes.
Eric Fetty. I think is going to play a role in there. Um, Austin Voth is another guy that's going to play a role in there. So
Hmm.
Lester could even be a bullpen piece later on. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if Washington was to make the playoffs, I would maybe say he's probably more seen as a bullpen guy.
Yeah,
Um,
unless he does enough to kind of warrant being their number 4, especially
yeah,
if some of those other pieces that you named don't outperform him. I could definitely see like the big 4 in Washington being Scherzer, Strasburg, Corbin, and Lester.
yeah, I can see that too. I think it's just going to depend on how things go for Lester
Yes.
this year.
Yep.
And Washington's got a pretty good offense too, so
Hmm.
it's hard to imagine that they're not going to be a good team. But as competitive as the East is, with the
Yeah.
Mets and Braves
Yeah.
already, I don't know. It's hard to say what could actually happen. Um, but I think part of me feels like the Nationals were just able to guarantee a little more with Lester,
Hmm.
where he would have a starting job, he wouldn't get traded. Um, Unless if things just go completely south for them,
Yeah.
then maybe he's that guy that they go and trade. Um, it's kind of funny because if you think back to 2014 when he got traded to the Oakland A's,
Hmm.
he was pretty content on going back to Boston.
Yep.
And then it's so much so that when the Red Sox came out with their team calendar in 2015, Lester was in it.
Yeah.
And then it didn't happen. He went to the Cubs.
Yep.
So I don't know. I I think yeah, I'm indifferent about it. I'm indifferent with kind of where the Nats are right now.
There's
Uh,
potential there.
there's potential. It's a good gamble, I think, because it could go either way. I guess it's not inexpensive if it doesn't work out. It's not like an expensive mistake.
Hmm.
But if it does work out, it's a really good cheap option for them.
And you look at what Lester got, and you look at the fact that he has pitched 2 full seasons the last 2 years. 2020 season. He has pitched 2 full seasons, and wasn't great, but he was useful. And then you look at what Corey Kluber got, and he's going to end up making like what 6 million less than Kluber will.
Right.
Um, the Nationals got a really good deal here for a guy who I think under the right circumstances could still be fairly effective.
And there's also Davey Martinez connection there. Martinez
Yep,
was the bench coach in Chicago while he was there, so
correct.
there's that to look into as well. Yeah, well, that's the news that's gone on in the last 24 hours or so.
Yeah, roughly.
It sounds like things are heating up a little bit going into February. We're seeing a little more as far as signings go. We're seeing some
Hmm.
trades take place, and it sounds like things aren't done yet. We could see Kirby Yates on a new team as soon as tomorrow
Yeah,
or tonight. George Springer could be nearing a decision soon. You know, it's we're getting there. The season's starting to get closer
yep.
every
I can't
every day
wait.
that goes by. I can't wait either. I'm very much looking forward to. I'm hoping that Commissioner Manfred is right that we're going to have a full season
Mm-hmm.
to play games. I think it's very much needed for baseball. The 60 game season, and you know my opinion on this. I felt like the 60 game season was really criminal.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
wasn't enough.
yeah.
Not
It's
to
just
sound selfish or anything.
it's just it's unfortunate because they had multiple opportunities to get the season going underway sooner, and I feel like the coronavirus wasn't really the forefront issue in preventing the season from starting sooner. There was a lot of inner politics going on between the Players Association and the owners. A lot of power grubbing, a lot of he said she said. But we did end up getting a season in. It was short, but it was still a season.
Yeah. I mean, obviously COVID did play a role, which is obviously
Yes,
safety.
yes,
Safety is important for
a
the
hundred
players.
percent.
But again, we all kind of felt to some degree that they started using the pandemic more as
Mm-hmm.
a fail safe
Yes.
instead of making that like the real reason. So hopefully things work out and hopefully we can get fans in the stands to some degree, even if it's that limited capacity like the NFL
Mm-hmm.
has done. Um, but yeah, here's to hoping that we'll know a spring training date soon. And opening day is still slated for March 31st.
Yep.
They haven't changed that. That's still on. Or I'm sorry, April 1st. April 1st
Oh, okay.
is opening day.
I knew it was one
Um,
of those 2 days.
yeah, April 1st is the Thursday. So yep, it is right now slated. It's still there. They haven't changed that yet. Um, but yeah, that's going to do it for us here on episode 2 of Dugout Talk. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Twitter handle is at Dugout Talk 1. Facebook page is Dugout Talk. With that, I'm Stephen Gossman,
I'm Cameron Lingle.
and so long. We will see you next time.
See you guys.